Welcome back, listeners. You are here with us tonight, Supergirls, Jeannie Marie, yours truly, in Chief Supergirl, and on the Hero Whispers. The Hero Whispers is our podcast for Supergirls, which is a platform created to inspire and empower college women to launch from college to life. And tonight we have a very cool, we're going to get lifted with Helen Dunham Reed. She is her own podcast host, which is amazing, and you have to check it out. And before I introduce her and have the pleasure of her company here, we are going to tell you a little bit about our show, just in case you're new and haven't been around to hear us. So the Hero Whispers we created to enable these women to share their voice, to share their story, these women that are launching, so that they can get out there and we can learn more about them and how we can help them, because it's all about Supergirls. It's all about paying it forward and helping these young women with career and networking and personal branding. And so I love to give them the opportunity to talk about their lives, their challenges, their struggles, get it out there, and their accomplishments, of course. And then I also like to have really cool women that can inspire these young women with some of the things they're doing, like our guest tonight, Helen Dunham Reed, who is amazingly lifted. It's her podcast is called The Lifted Podcast. I absolutely love that name. But Helen is here. Welcome to the show, Helen.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for being on my podcast and being willing to be interviewed recently. I loved it.
Oh my God, I love being interviewed. I love talking about the mission. I love people with like minds like yourself. So it's empowering, inspiring, and that's what we're doing. So everyone, Let me just give you a little background on Helen. Helen is a wellness blogger, podcast host, singer-songwriter, and public speaker. An advocate for ending violence against women and girls, she served as the chair of UN Women's YP Committee in NYC for 2 years and has hosted multiple fundraisers to directly fund women and girls in need. Helen is the founder and host of the Lifted Podcast, a space to explore consciousness, holistic healing, manifesting, and becoming the best versions of ourselves. You can find her music and podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and more under Helen Dunham. You can also head over to www.helendenham.com to find her blog and much more exciting adventures on that website, let me tell you. So Helen, I can't believe you even have time. You do all these amazing things to come on the show. So I'm super grateful. And the number one thing on my mind is, what inspired you to start the Lifted Podcast? And how did you get that amazing name? Where did that come from?
Well, thank you for that really nice introduction. So the Lifted Podcast, I'll tell you a little bit about it. So, well, my journey kind of started, I was just looking for ways to uplift myself and really heal myself internally and kind of rewrite my story for myself in college. And, that was about 6 years ago. So I was listening to podcasts on similar topics. So I was listening to people like Abraham Hicks, Teal Swan, Lacey Phillips, the Almost 30 podcast. And I was using those podcasts to help myself get to know myself better. And it came to a point where I was like, there's so much more that I want to dive into and so much more I want to learn about the healing process and all of that. So I was like, how can I just ask these people these questions? Like, can I slide into their DMs on Instagram? Like, how can I get answers to what I want to know more about? And then I was like, okay, what if I just started a podcast? And at first that was just a very daunting task to me. I thought that there was like so much that had to be done to even make that possible. I thought I'd need a whole recording studio. Like, it seemed kind of impossible at first. But the best advice that I got from a friend of mine was, just start with what you have. You can't start with the intention of being perfect. You can't compare your first episode to someone's 100th episode, and don't let that hold you back from just beginning. So do what you can with what you have. And what I did have was I had a microphone. I had, people in mind that I wanted to interview. I had skills with Photoshop, so I knew I could brand this in a certain way. And I just kind of gave it a go, and I just used GarageBand. I did a lot of research on YouTube, and just Googled how do you start a podcast, and step by step I got it figured out. And I still have a lot of work to do on it, but I'm happy with where it is now. And I think for anybody listening who wants to start a podcast, like, just go for it. Just do the research. Of course we don't know how to begin until we do the research, and just give it a go. So, and the name Lifted, I mean, I was like, what feeling do I want to give people when they listen to this podcast? And the feeling was like feeling better. What does feeling better sound like? It feels like being lifted. And so that just kind of came naturally when I thought about the feeling I wanted to give people.
That is phenomenal. I love that advice, because it's like starting a business or anything. You can't do it unless you start, right? You got to start somewhere. And if you fail fast, and you learn from it, and then you keep going. And I'm all about that. Like, I love how you just did. I love how you just jumped in. You got to just jump in. Otherwise, you'd be sitting on the sidelines looking at your life, right? Like watching the years pass you by.
Absolutely.
So,
exactly.
And I love that it was a way to heal yourself. That is like so introspective and so like amazing, right? A lot of people just heal themselves. They drink a glass of wine or something, but Helen's like, oh no, I'm starting a podcast. Yeah, I'm gonna. You're like, woo, let's do this. So has it helped you with some of the healing that you thought it would? Like, has it like met your expectations to this point? I mean, I know it's relatively new, but how are you feeling so far?
That's a great question. Well, yeah, absolutely. I have learned so much about myself from having these guests on, because the people that I interview are people that I really look up to and that I've been following for a while. And, I've learned to be a better listener from having this podcast. I look at people like Oprah, and even Ashley Graham is one of my favorite podcast hosts right now as well. And what makes them so good at what they do is that they really can listen and absorb and give intelligent feedback. So it's taught me a lot about that. And it's just given me so many good tools for my tool belt, learning about emotional freedom technique and tapping, to like learning about past lives and astrology. Like, there's so much knowledge that these wonderful people have to give us. And yeah, so I'm learning while the listeners are learning. Like, I'm right there with them. I'm just coming up with the questions, really. And furthermore, it's also given me a greater sense of confidence and self-worth, because it is scary to put yourself out there like that. And, I went through a lot of fear of, people aren't going to like what I have to say, or they're going to think I'm self-absorbed and I just want to talk about myself. And like, I got into this headspace that was really just self-defeating in the beginning, but I was really able to work through that and just show up for the process and learn that, I actually have a lot to offer here, and it's actually really going to help people. So getting out of my own way was definitely a big part of that process. So yeah, I'm very happy with where it's at right now. I mean, the thing I need to work on the most now is consistency. So I've kind of just completed season 1, and now I'm booking guests for the next round of interviews in the spring. So I think the challenge now is just showing up for the work and being consistent with it and continuing to show up.
Well, you're an artist in every sense of the word. So this is art, and you're creating it. And the fact that you're a singer-songwriter, I mean, I have to hear about that. And I'm hoping, I don't know if you feel up to it, but I'd love to hear you sing a bar.
I'll sing a bar. Sure. I mean, let's see. What do you want to know about the songwriting experience?
Oh, I mean, how did you get started with that? Like, my dream job, it'll never happen. That's why it's a dream job, is to be a rock star, singer, tour. I mean, I was in a band in graduate school, and they let me sing, but I can't really sing. I mean, it's not a talent. So the fact that you have that talent, I love that. It inspires me, and I love how people, like, it feels like it's like a natural thing when you're a singer-songwriter. It kind of like comes, like maybe you started when you were little. I don't know. I just want to hear the story, like how you became that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, I think that singing is a talent, but it also can be developed so much. Like, a lot of people are just like, oh, no, I can't sing. Like, no. but you can, it takes, if you can like kind of sing along to your favorite song and kind of hit the notes, like you definitely can learn to sing better. It's just like any kind of craft, any kind of sport, even like you build that muscle and you practice. But it really started for me because when I was young, I would always journal. Like my mom really got my sister and I into journaling from a young age as a way of being observant of our thoughts and almost as a form of meditation. So I was journaling a lot. I loved to read. I would write poetry. I was always a theater kid. I loved singing. That was how I had fun. So it was just kind of this natural progression into songwriting. And then I had my first boyfriend when I was like 14. And, the heartbreak of my first love really got me to write my first song and like actually write to pour my pain into some kind of tangible form. And it made me feel so much better and it made me feel empowered. And I remember like my family coming into my bedroom and playing like my first songs for them. And they were very supportive. They were like, just do it, girl. Like whatever's going to make you feel good. So I ended up going to college for theater and music, but also arts administration so that I learned the business side of music because I knew I always wanted to be in the driver's seat and like know what was going on and understand how contracts and just the whole back end of the scene works. So that was great. And then let's see, what happened next? Then I recorded a demo when I was in college, freshman year. I asked for Christmas for a gift certificate to a recording studio. So over Christmas break, I went in and I recorded 3 songs for a demo. And that feels so good to me. Just like having that.
You wrote those songs?
CD. I wrote those songs and I went in with my guitar and I just recorded them. And I didn't even care if anybody ever heard it. I really didn't even put it out. It was just something for me to have to be like, you can do this. Like, this is possible. I needed to get the feeling of what it was going to be like to be in a recording studio. And I just was obsessed. I was like, this is where I want to be all the time.
Oh my God. I can relate to that. I would love that. Well, that's why we have shows. That's why we do this. That's why we do what we do. Because it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it went from there into just like, I continued to write, but I didn't really know like how to go about I didn't even know what a producer did. I didn't know that they were 50% of the process. They're the ones that like make your music into this radio friendly, thing. So finally I did like a couple little shows in college. I won like a battle of the bands thing. My confidence got boosted. And my friend introduced me to my first manager, Jay, who was such a wonderful person. And he was also like he was like a personal coach. He was like a fitness coach. So he'd have me going on like runs while I was singing and like on the bike singing and just like, he gave me this real sense of hustle and was like, go for it. He introduced me to my first producers. So I understood what it was like to co-write with somebody and understand how to bring music to life. And then finally, I was naturally in like the scene in New York City, just going out to clubs and like dancing. And a lot of my friends were DJs. So I kind of got introduced to people that way. Finally did my first track with my friend G, who's a rapper. She's amazing. And I sang on a chorus for her. And she introduced me to my primary producer, Matt, who is like my savior. I just love him so much. And since then, I've been working with Matt for like 4 years. I can't believe it's been that long. I think it has. That's crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, it's really just about, you and I talked about the importance of networking and getting out there, but it's like everything that has happened for me has come through just friends and knowing people and doing it for fun. And I mean, Matt and I really got along. It's about finding someone you can really collaborate with well too, because he knows that I do best when I'm like just writing and he's just making the beats. So he'll kind of put down a chord progression and I'll start writing in the background. And then after 3 hours of just kind of being in our own little worlds, we'll come together and we'll record, and the song just kind of happens that way. So like the way he works is very good for me. So that's kind of how it happened. And then I just started to put it out on Spotify, iTunes, did my first music video last year. And it's been like a slow rise. And I'm actually going through a whole rebranding thing now because all my music used to be under DUNHAM, which is my middle name, but